Welcome, friends, to another. I'm excited because the green room session was pretty lively. It's like, it's like, oh wow, it's like a friend I haven't talked to in a while, and it's the first time we've chatted. So I feel it's going to go well. Of course, Cyber Metal Podcast, Omar Sangarima. I'm going to do my best. Alyson might join us kind of mid episode, so I'll do my best to say none of this is legal advice. None of this is actual, stringent tech advice for your particular use case. Please reach out to anybody on this pod for specific help. We're, both of us are, very much will help you. We can provide guidance for your specific use case. But without further ado, Mr. James McQuiggan. James, welcome.
Thank you very much, Omar. Very excited to be here. Heard lots about you guys. I had the pleasure of meeting with Alyson a few weeks ago. Looking forward to a fun chat.
Awesome. Give the folks a little bit of a background. I had the pleasure of you kind of ran me through a little bit of your background and your travels on your career, but let the listeners know.
Yeah, no. Currently, I founded my own contracting business called Apparent Security. There's a real meaning and story behind that. Over the years, I've done 25 years working in cybersecurity, IT, worked for a little German company called Siemens for a number of years, cut my teeth on doing everything from IT, networking, product security, incident response. And then I spent 6 years working for KnowBe4 as a CISO advisor, talking all things from ransomware, security awareness, passwords, which ironically, Password Day is here in the month of May. But and then for the last 3 years, talked all about AI, everything from ChatGPT, generative AI, agentic AI, dark side of AI, deep fakes. I have a lot of fun doing deep fake presentations, but now kind of out on my own doing vCISO work, a lot of other fun cybersecurity projects. I'm a part-time faculty professor at Full Sail University here in Central Florida, teaching cyber threat intelligence. So, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, inch deep, mile wide of projects and tasks that I do on a daily basis. So real excited to be here and for our chat today.
Awesome. We had a previous guest on, Fred DeClue, who coined the phrase, the revenge of the generalist is kind of what we're seeing a move towards, both, I think, coming from AI, allowing folks to kind of take a broader look and apply those broad sets of skills a little deeper. I know myself, I'm in that boat as well, being a career changer. So it's nice to have AI be able to fill in some of those gaps. But again, the jack of all trades, I think, we're having our moments here, James. I think it's we've been waiting and preparing. Awesome with the mention of KnowBe4, near and dear to my heart. They have some awesome content and great advisory services as well. Like, just awesome folks from that side. But for our purposes today, what's on your mind? What's burning? What do you want to dig into here? What's really got you saying, hey, I need to get on this podcast. We need to chat about this.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you and I were just in the green room and the conversations that I had with Alyson, for me, a lot of it is kind of, there's two aspects of it. One is the paying it forward, in our careers that we've got AI coming along, and it's a double-edged sword where, it's doing incredible things, allowing us to be more efficient. We're creating tools that allow us to be more pro-efficient. But on the double-edged sword of that, the flip side to that is, and we just pulled it up, is 20, 30, 40% job loss due to AI. What do we need to do as either generalists or jack of all trades or people trying to get into the industry? What do we need to do to be able to be resilient in the workforce, so that when we do get in there, we can stay and we're not losing our job to an AI? And then of people that have been in the industry for 10, 15 years, we call them seniors apparently, but people that have been in the industry, how do we go ahead and pay that forward to either people trying to get in to different industries, whatever that may be? So that's kind of two topics around where, kind of based off of what we chatted backstage, but also what I'm seeing in the industry as well.
It really is one of those, like you said, the double-edged sword, because I'll find myself very excited at the possibilities. I think that spark has to be in you if you're in this field. That technology is cool. Let's take a look. Ooh, what can we get into here? And I think that's generally tech. I think definitely in cyber, it's a bit more pertinent, keener. It's honed to a finer edge of, hey, how can we break this? Let's see. And then how can we fix it? How can we defend it? How can we? But then on the flip side, again, you start hearing rumblings of, we're going to do flatter organizations. We're going to every less managerial levels and everybody's a contributor. And how, knowledge work is knowledge work, sure. But how can we get more out of the same amount of folks or even less folks? What's the right mix? Are we going to replace folks with agents? Rumblings I'm hearing there. What's your honest then answer when folks go, is AI going to take my job? And what do I do?
Yeah, and I've been answering that question for 3 years already now, because once AI came onto the scene, ChatGPT, hey, I can get ChatGPT to automate this, and I can go through and do this. And now we're vibe coding and creating all kinds of apps, and developers are sitting there going, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my job? And the way I look at what AI is doing is it's very capable of repetitive tasks. When we're seeing and what our jobs are, depending on what your job is, if you're just doing the same task day in and day out, we can go back to look at the automotive industry. We can go back and look at the printing press. When your one job was attaching this wheel or this bolt or whatever to on an assembly line, well, we know that got replaced by robots. Going back to the 80s, you had the unions and everybody else, people working and building cars, and you had, the specification of the quality of the car being built, how many defects, how many mistakes were made. When robots come along, it's, cuts it drastically down and there's almost very little mistakes. And so people lose their jobs that way. And I think we're in an evolution where with AI, people are going to lose their jobs. Sadly, people where their tasks are repetitive. If it's something that AI can do, it's going to be something that could replace if you're just doing that one task. And so what I've told students, the students that I have, what I've told people that are getting in the field or in the field that are worried, for me, I go, look at what AI can do to help you with your job. How can it augment? How can it take a task that you do on a regular basis and improve that? So instead of it taking you an hour to do X task, it now takes you 10 minutes. Well, now you've got 50 minutes. What else? What other skills can you learn? What other tasks can you take on to fill that void? Because if they know that, if your management, your organization looks at it and goes, oh, well, what would take you an hour now takes you 10 minutes. And now you can do 6 times the amount of work in that, that hour. What other things can you take on to help you? How can you leverage AI for yourself to allow you to be able to be more successful? And if you can present it that way, and now it's like, okay, I can do this task, but I can do all these other things, or we can improve the task and add in XYZ to whatever it is that you're doing. So now, if we take it from a cybersecurity standpoint, we take it from a SOC analyst where you would have to go through, you might be using predictive AI to look at particular logs. Well, now leveraging generative AI to go through and review those logs quicker, there still needs to be that human in the lead or human in the loop, human involvement that allows you to go through and verify and check that work. Whether you're using the AI to check the AI, that you still got to be there's got to be some type of human aspect in there. When you get on, I don't know about you, but when I get on an airplane, one of the first things that I do is I look to the left as I get on and I look into the cockpit and I go, oh, good, 2 pilots are sitting there. The plane can fly itself. The plane can be taxied. It can take off. It can fly. It can land. It doesn't need the pilots. But the pilots are there because the most important thing is human safety. And you need the pilots. You need that human there to make sure that the plane does take off properly, doesn't crash, knock wood, and lands and everything else. So that's a huge case where that human in the loop, that human in the lead is there. And the same thing with our tasks that we're doing. You're going to need that SOC analyst that's going to go through and verify the information and before it makes the big decision of, okay, what it's going to do, or send off a report, generate a report, and send it off to everybody, but has the right and accurate information. Because we've already seen where AI has been introduced to optimize a database. Well, it
Mm.
optimized it all right. It deleted it, because it was the best way to resolve the issue. And,
I don't.
what's better than, an optimized database is an empty database.
I
Ta-da.
mean,
Yeah. So
you know,
that human
nihilists
has to be
unite,
there.
right? Like, what's better? Just the void. Yeah, that was recently the AWS issue where it's going to be easier for me to just get rid of all this code and rewrite it in Scratch, and it does rewrite it,
Yeah.
but in those 20 minutes that it's down because it didn't realize that, or the guardrails weren't there. That's a lot of, look at the economy took a hit, for
Hmm.
goodness sakes. Just over
Yep.
that 20 minutes, it
Well,
shows
yeah.
the backbone of what AWS now, I think, is in the fabric of, all
Yep.
commerce across
And
the US.
yep.
What I love with that answer, James, is you're being honest, because I'll ask that question to 10 people and maybe 9 of them will give me that creative destruction, equivocation, and but which may be, hey, listen, long term, potentially, but you're being honest, like you said, with your students, folks that are coming to you. Hey, you have the wisdom, you have the knowledge and the foresight, you've seen some trends. Give it to me straight. You're telling them, yes, can take your job if your job is just to produce the same widget 400 times a day.
And if all you're doing is writing a report, then we can get the LLM to do that. But
Honestly,
yeah,
because even in cyber, you can go back to, wait a second, if you were just writing mid or decent reports on your pen tests and you weren't adding that, I'm going to teach my clients, or I'm going to teach the folks, how I got here, how to remediate. If you're not doing that value add in your bones, if you were just kind of mailing it in, it is a bad day, for that point. I've seen it also compared to, like you said, with the software devs, you know, mid-level software devs, and mid-level meaning like quality wise. I'm not talking about, seniority, just like folks that were, okay, but not getting after it, not, doing all the things that we all know you have to do that aren't glamorous to get better at a craft, are going to get eaten up by AI. So so then, yes, you're saying AI could take your job, right? Utilize it to your advantage. Are there specific, you mentioned SOC analysts, but are there specific other areas in cyber where you would say, yep, there's going to be amazing disruption, ride this wave with AI?
I think we're going to see a lot of it's going to impact on the development side,
Mm-hmm.
because you have upper management going, hey, we can bring in this tool and it can generate all the code that you're all doing for a tenth of the cost and then X times. And that's fine. That's great. The problem here is they're looking in the wrong spot of where to improve their processes. They're looking at oh my gosh, we can do it with AI and it can generate the code. Fine. You still have to do that QA. You still have to have people review the code and make sure it works. I've talked with developers, friends of mine that are, in cybersecurity and developers, and they said that, I've gone through and used the vibe coding. I've gone through, used Claude code, or the different codecs and the different ones. And it goes through and it's good enough. It goes through, but then there's code that gets generated that's that's extra, that doesn't need to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
The comments aren't lining up with the right
Seen
code message. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I have vibe coded several apps. I could vibe coded a deepfake generator app. I vibe coded a deepfake detector app. I had it vibe code a whole new website for me. I've gone through and used vibe code because it's been able to do what I needed it to do for me, for my needs. If I were to turn around and try to vibe code an app that I'm now going to use to sell as a service to somebody, based on my experience, based on my understanding, I'm taking that code and I'm going to go see one of my developer friends, one of the
Mm-hmm.
humans aspect, and go through and go review this code for me. Even if I've had it security checked by Claude or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
and gone through Cursor
Yeah.
or whatever, I'm going to still get a human to go through and go, I need you to let me know how, secure this is, or how, are there any vulnerabilities or any things that I'm going to run into before I were to even use it in the public, before I would use as a service where I would charge people. But you're going to have organizations and people that are going to be out there. They're going to be like, oh, this is great. We can get it to generate this and we're going to market.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to market and again, we are back to where we were 5, 10, 20, 25, 30 years ago, where we got a product. Let's get it to market. And then they get it to market and they're like, oh, well, we've got all these security problems. Oh, that's okay. We'll fix it when we get out there. And, you know, and we can say we're doing better. It's, you know, rinse, lather, repeat. It's what's old is new again. And we've got all these AI tools that are coming out. And it's like, have we really done a security review? Have we really verified that there aren't the vulnerabilities? And for me, when I look at that and go, no, we're just not learning from our mistakes. Great. As a cybersecurity professional, I'm good for the next 10, 15 years because it's going to come back around again on whatever the next evolution of what we're dealing with at that point, with whether it's agentic AI or AI creating new programs, AI creating new AI. So, yeah.
The job security is nice to a certain degree, as
To
you
an
said,
extent.
where, but now we know as cyber professionals in our bones, hey, this is a bad thing to do. But I've struggled with this and I wanted to ask you, right? You have time in the field. Will there need to be some sort of cyber Chernobyl or some sort of, event? Because definitely don't want that to happen. I'm not sitting here on the sidelines going, well, the masses need to learn. Absolutely not. Right now, new kid, right? 2 years ago, skin in the game for the future. I just want an even keel, status quo. The anarchist in me died when the baby was born. Great. Like what, like you said, we're back to square one. This was just get it out to market. We'll fix it later. There's been a lot of people pontificating in cyber ourselves. Oh, this is reputational damage and it could be a competitive advantage if your stuff is more secure. But the market doesn't validate that. Like, what, in your opinion, needs to happen in order for that message to get through?
It's interesting, the Chernobyl, the Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
We've been using those terms for years.
Yeah.
I can think back to the 2000s and in that time frame where I'm working on SCADA control systems, working at Siemens and working with colleagues to say, look, we need to secure this. We can't be just having open telnet or FTP. Oh, that's okay. It's behind a firewall. That's not a problem. But we need all these other security parameters put in. Oh, well, that'll be in the next version. That'll be in the next operating system, the next SCADA system we put out. And so we were screaming then to get security and we were talking about, if we just, if there was just a Chernobyl, a Pearl Harbor that happened, maybe people would listen. And I'm like, I don't think so. But in the SCADA world, I can say the word Stuxnet. And Stuxnet was kind of that, where a lot of people went, oh, wow, all right, well, I guess our systems can get hacked, even if it's air gapped.
This is real. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it happened in Iran with, all that, and that's politics aside, but that was a wake-up call because then everybody was looking for the next Stuxnet. And I know even with me working for Siemens, going and doing vulnerability, doing assessments, or somebody would find something wrong with our, one of our systems or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, here's Stuxnet all over again. And I'm like, no, it's not,
Calm down.
Then we would have, and I can think now we get into the 2010s, and it's a bit of a history lesson, but I can say Home Depot and Target and TJ Maxx, oh my God, all these credit cards, these POS systems and platforms, flat networks getting breached. Okay, now we're finally going to have more security. And we got PCI that came out of that, right? We had more credit card protections, but it was just easier for the credit card companies to go, all right, we cancel the card, we'll send you a new one. Sure. It's a hit on us, but, it's a lot easier than, trying to give everybody credit monitoring. And that always cracks me up is when they give you the 1 year of credit monitoring. And the cyber criminals are sitting there going, okay, set the timer. 1 year, we start doing the attacks.
100%.
Because all the monitoring's done. But, and then we have the supply chain attacks. We have SolarWinds. And I know very well the people that are behind that were impacted by SolarWinds and the people that worked on it. And it wasn't fun at all.
No.
for them having to deal with that. But that supply chain attack, and that we think, okay, now people are going to wake up, and but we're constantly every week. There's today ending in Y. We're going to have a data breach today.
Striker recently in my area, and you sit
Right.
there and you're like,
you're not
okay,
change
this is the one
healthcare.
that's going to wake people up. No,
Nope, because what ends up happening is you have organizations that come through it, especially the larger organizations. Smaller ones, they're the ones that get really impacted. But you look at your enterprise organizations where either through cyber insurance or the risk appetite is a lot bigger at, the C-suite level or the board of director level. And they're like, yeah, okay, well, we can, we'll take a hit and the stock will drop, but it'll come back up. Sure. And it's a matter of riding that wave. It's not a fun day and it's not exciting at any stretch of the imagination, but their risk appetite's a lot larger. And they go, okay, all right, if it's going to cost X number of dollars, we'll cover that later on. But when we had the rash of ransomware that went on for so long, for so many years, and we still deal with it, it's just not as prevalent now because AI is the buzzword. But with ransomware, you would have organizations that would be giving millions and millions of dollars to the cyber criminals and the groups that are out there. And I'd look at how much money they'd give them. And I'm like, if you took 10% of that and put it into your cybersecurity program, you could have avoided this, but you'd rather pay it out through the insurance company and then the insurance company got hit and they were like, whoa, yep, no, not doing that anymore. Then it was kind of like, oh, well, now if we've got to pay for it, okay, well, all right, what do we got to do to implement more security? So while the Chernobyls, the Pearl Harbors are happening, it's still a slow progression for board of directors to come around. We're still trying to get more technical mindset, cybersecurity mindset into the boards overall. The more mature organizations have that on their board. They have either the CISO reporting or CISO does a presentation or is educating and making them more aware. But when you've got it with boards that are just like, yeah, no, that's fine. Have we been breached yet? No. Okay. Well, then we're not going to worry about it. When we get breached, then we'll deal with it. And it's like,
we
it's
haven't
like saying,
been breached, so it won't happen.
Right.
I love that logic.
It's like saying, oh, our home hasn't been broken in yet. I'm not going to install that security system.
I'm not going to lock the door.
Yeah.
We're fine. Right.
But then again, then it comes back to risk, right? It's like, okay, do you live in a neighborhood where you're out in the middle of the woods? Okay, well, then maybe fine. You don't need to lock your door. Just hopefully a bear doesn't come walking in.
I was going to say, bears don't need thumbs to do some damage, I'll say.
They just push. Yeah.
Exactly.
Where does a bear sleep? Anywhere it wants to.
That's 100%, right? Like, does a bear poo in the woods? If it so chooses, I'm not going to tell
it wants to.
But you're spot on, because it just seems as though, because you and I, we're in the field. I get the newsletters. I get the ISAL reports. I get the the IONS reports are a big one. I love those in the morning.
Yeah, they're good.
I got my friend, my big pal, right? My big pal Zach Whitaker, right? Hoping to get him on the pod, so I'm name dropping him like crazy. But like, I get his newsletter every Sunday, and it's just a scroll of like, this happened here, this happened here. By the way, this happened here, this happened here. Cool, like, and it's just for some reason, the Power School one got me because it was like kids' data.
Yeah.
And, some of it was, like when they would go to their school counselor, some stuff that you obviously don't want out. Right. You want to respect the privacy of kids, especially vulnerable populations. And it was just, okay, caught the guy. He did it for the lulz, it seemed, because he was a little younger, I think, was a gentleman there. He's going to get 10 years. Okay.
The impact and trauma to all the other people, though, that's a lot more than 10 years. That's lifetime.
And again, for a population and also a demographic, just business-wise, they don't have, some of these school systems don't have two pennies to rub together, right? Like, they're just, and so if you or I walk in, it's either going to be pro bono work or, I can maybe give you some sort of like tips, but where are we going to find the resources?
Yeah. But not to get political, and it's not, but if, all the money that we spend on defense, if we could take 10% of that and put that into our education and help schools be secure, because it's just damaging to the students and damaging to the teachers, poor teachers. And I've had plenty of conversations. My wife's a semi-retired teacher, and I'm teaching at a university, but teachers in elementary and high schools, they're not getting, I personally don't feel they get the value they should be getting. But also, if we could have more education and training to them, because cyber criminals and hackers that are cyber criminals, bad actors that are out there, they know that they can send in a Starbucks gift card or a Chick-fil-A gift card or something like that, appreciative by a teacher. And they're like, "Oh," and they end up falling for it. And it's, getting more of that awareness, that education out there. They get it, but they're hammered with so much education and data collection and everything else. It's just one of those things that ends up slipping through. They are the target by the cyber criminals because they know they can go after the human. And if we're not educating the humans, who are the most valuable asset, then they become a prime target and cyber criminals go after it. And it's like, woohoo, we're in.
And you want to talk about flat networks? Just take a look at any sort of public school Wi-Fi or backbone network, and you just look at, but again, it's often situations where the IT person is moonlighting because they're actually a teacher and that just happens to, have some IT chops. Cool. You're the person doing it.
Or
and then
one person for 20 schools.
Yeah. Goodness, that's another one where, again, if you have the one person in the school district and then and at that point, as one of my friends, Jose Toledo, right? Like you mentioned the IoT systems and the SCADA stuff, right? He, in a previous life, I know he worked for Schneider Electric and he would do a lot of, testing that way. And he turned me on. It was just like a light bulb moment where the CIA triad gets kind of reversed and it becomes AIC for a lot of customers.
So. Yep.
At that point for the schools, the A is the biggest one. I for sure, in order to, keep accuracy, you don't want, grades getting fudged with at all levels. You don't want any of that, right? No turning the D into a B, right? Old school, right? With the felt pen.
Ferris
But,
wheel.
not that I ever did that.
Yeah.
But,
war games. Not Ferris wheel, war games.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's just, there's lack of resources. Tell me more about kind of what you got brewing with the parent security. Because I also, you mentioned that there was a story back there and Alyson kind of prepped me for it. And I loved the story behind it. So I want to kind of share it with the listeners.
So while my time at KnowBe4, I spent 6 years working there. I did over 500 presentations. I love to get up in front of people and talk to people and present. And during COVID, all of my presentations were like this, talking to a blank screen. It was always great if somebody would put the cameras on. I was like, oh, great. I get a face. I get to interact with
sort of some human,
kind of connectivity. Yeah. Well, one of the things I started doing in the presentations, and I would do it at the end of every section, because usually in every presentation, I break it up. And at the end of every section, I would drop in a dad joke, and it would be a technical dad joke. One's like, what does a computer and an air conditioner have in common? Well, they're both useless when you open Windows.
Yeah. We're going to be friends because now as a new dad, I need to fill the bag up with these.
Oh, well,
dad in tech.
I have a new dad joke book coming out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, me and a buddy of mine, we put together 256 hacker dad jokes.
And of course it's 256.
Right. Well, he came out with the first edition. He did the first edition with 128. And so he filled them together.
I'm sorry. But then the third edition is going to be
384. Yeah.
384. I like that. That shows you've been in the game for a minute.
Oh yeah.
Hats off there. Hats off.
I was there with dial-up modems, 5.25-inch floppy drives.
Yep.
Actually, Commodore VIC-20 was the first computer that I got to get my hands on.
You got some time on me. For me, it was the 2E. My big thing was we had a computer room at school.
Yep.
And that was the big deal when you would go and it's funny because my mom, when I finally got into computers, I'm a career switcher, only been in the game for about 12 years, but she goes, yeah, I always thought you'd end up in computers. And I was like, that cool. You could have told me. I could have saved a little bit of grief, jumping from financial advising to this, to that, because you would always get jazzed. You would always come back and tell me about Grammar Gremlins or Oregon Trail. And I would just always be like, you're going to private school and I'm paying you to play video games at she would get mad. I was like, but I turned it into a career, darn it.
Yep. Well, I mean, my first career was theater, so don't feel bad.
But
now
the presentations make sense, right?
What's that?
Now the presentations make sense.
Yeah.
Where you always had the gameness.
But I was technical.
Yeah.
I was a technical guy. I was behind the scenes. I was all about lighting and sound and stage management.
There you
but
go.
I worked with a lot of actors. I worked with a lot of worked in opera, so worked with a lot of singers and, learning how to be able to project to the back of the house. But yeah, so I would do the dad jokes. Like I said, got a whole book on them. I've got jokes created into slides, so when I do the presentation, people see it. And it's kind of like why you can't use the word beef stew as a password. It's just not stroganoff. So there you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I am all for these.
So when it came time to forming, after leaving Noble 4 in January, and it's like, okay, I'm going to form my own LLC. I want a business name. I don't just want James McQuiggan Consulting or James McQuiggan Cyber or whatever. I wanted to have like a company name. And I was actually joking around with the term dad joke in Latin, which was pater iocus or something like that.
Yep,
I'm like, yeah, that would be fun and that would be cool, but people just aren't going to get the name and they're going to say it wrong. And it was one of those things where I was running different dad jokes into my head. And the one that made me realize that this is it was, when does a joke become a dad joke? When it's a parent.
Yes, indeed.
Now, there's another one I used to do. There's a variation as well also. But for me, the other one I liked was when it's full grown. But I can't do full grown security. So apparent security, I make cyber threats apparent for your organization. So that's kind of the tagline that goes with it. As working for Know4 doing the presentations, one of the things that I would always be doing is kind of looking out at the landscape and making folks aware of the threats. What are the dangers out there? Kind of like a lighthouse.
Okay.
So my logo for apparent security is a lighthouse.
That's dope.
So I have my youngest daughter is a graphic designer by profession. So she did my logos and everything for me. And so that's kind of where apparent security came from. It's got that hidden meaning with the dad jokes. I go to conferences and people will come up to me and go, "Hey, are you going to do any dad jokes in your presentation today?" And I'm like, "Oh, now I'm a barking seal? Give you the jokes?" And it's like, no, I don't do dad jokes on demand, but it's usually in the spirit of the moment. We'll be talking about something and I'll be like, "Oh, yep, here we go."
There it is.
And then I drop it in there. So, it's kind of a fun thing to be known by, it's a gimmick, but it's a good gimmick.
I'm a fan of pro wrestling, an unabashed fan of pro wrestling. Gimmicks, like
it's all about the gimmick.
They get me. I'll remember, I'll remember Ric Flair's robes probably longer exactly than I'll remember, like some of my, childhood memories. You know what I mean? Like, so it's fine. Right. Like I'm going to forget that, as a dad, he's not the best, but we're just going to nature boy.
And there's been all the different eras of WWE, right? You had Hulk Hogan. For me, Stone Cold and The Rock were just
big time.
That was an awesome era,
big time.
That's the bottom line because
Stone Cold said so. I remember, and this is like one of the few, because you had to pay for pay-per-views back then, right? There's not as much piracy. So I remember, like, I think it was the December show in 1997 when Sting finally fought Hulk Hogan. I was just at the perfect age that I was still on the fence about whether it was real or not. And I was just like, oh, what's going on? And I'll catch it on YouTube and I'll just stop, what I'm doing at a big boy job and just be like, yep, I'm 10 years old again. Doesn't matter. I'm 10 or 11. So gimmicks are okay on the Cyber Mettle podcast. I think, Alyson, I'm gonna I'll take your proxy, please say they're okay.
They're totally okay.
Okay, good.
They're
good,
encouraged actually around here.
I think so.
Once the book gets finished and we get released, I'll hook you up with a copy there. Omar.
Beautiful. I will bust these out, and like my daughter's at the age where she will just repeat stuff, which I have to be very careful, right? She's learned to swear in Spanish, even though we don't speak Spanish in the household. I just do. But like she's learned, she'll bust out some whoppers and I'll be like, oh no.
Whoops. Okay.
But were they used properly in context? I mean, that's always
1,000%. Like she'll like run into a wall or something and say, the word, right? And then, and I'm like, well, she must have heard it when Daddy stubbed his toe, right? Or when the
Daddy can say it, so can I.
1,000%, right? But Alyson, awesome to have you on. just been
Sorry
gabbing away.
about that.
Like I said.
Well, I figured you would, honestly. I know that
Honestly.
James and I had a great first meeting and that you all would just click and hit it off. So I was not worried.
It's like an old pal, honestly. But, we've just been going through, the AI disruption, right? A little bit and just loving his honesty about like, hey, it could take your job.
We're going with AI.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Like where, but, I just, James, we'd love to have you back, right?
No.
Just please let us know, when you have something, when you have the book, when the book's finally out, please come on and definitely. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to have a whole 2 bust out. We're going to do a joke a day. Like I've already have it planned out.
Well, the funny thing is kind of self-promote on, there's a very good friend of mine, Dr. Gerald Ozier, who does a show every day called the Daily Cyber Threat Brief.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday mornings, I do his cyber career hotline. That's from 9 to 9:30. But on Fridays, because he does different segments every day, on Fridays, it's Dad Joke Friday, and he reads several dad jokes. Well, this guy's the source. So I send Jerry the dad jokes every week. And I was just thinking today, with Mother's Day this weekend, I need to give him some good Mother's Day dad jokes.
That's true.
For tomorrow.
It's very true. I got out ahead of Mother's Day this year. I'm very proud of myself. Finally, I'm finally getting hip to it. Right. This is, it only took me 2 years with, trying to get that in early. Don't want to be picking over the last cards that are left. Right.
Yeah.
That was, I went at
worst case scenario, you have the little one make a card and sign it.
Oh no, 1,000%. That's still happening. Yeah. That's definitely still happening. But there was
break
one
out
year
the macaroni and glitter. You're good.
Oh, for sure. But there was one year where I don't know why I missed the boat on, obviously have a card from the child.
Right.
To the mom. I just said, no, I'll just have her sign this one. And she's like, my wife is like, okay, that's cool. And I'm like, oh no, I definitely bottled it. No, this is bad. I gotta learn. I definitely this is a rookie move, Sangarima. But not this year.
It's a first kid. So, you had to learn.
That's very true.
It takes practice to go, wait a minute, it should be from the kid.
Be collective, kind of, right? Yeah. On Mother's Day, right? She's
right.
But James,
if all else fails, you get 4 popsicle sticks, you get some discarded puzzle pieces, you put a picture of the kid surrounded by those popsicle sticks, put on some pieces, glue them on there and go, I love you to pieces.
James is giving away all the secrets.
That's it. This is the secret.
One dad to another.
I'm loving it, man. as you can tell, like I'm just here for the knowledge, right? Like this, this whole conceit of the podcast is just to talk to cool people and just soak up the knowledge. Which, man,
there is no shame in that game, Omar. That we're all here to learn.
I get to talk to awesome folks. This is, it's just
always be learning.
It's already a success. James, any last pieces of wisdom, or where are you going to be doing any presentations, any talks, like anything you'd like to share with the listeners?
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so I'm attending some conferences this month, but I'm going to be presenting at SecretCon in Minneapolis at the beginning of June.
Yep.
And then I'm attending a bunch of conferences between here and there. Plus, now that I've got work coming in on apparent security and other stuff, that's keeping me busy, which is good. I will be at Wild West Hackin' Fest in October. I should be at ISC2 Security Congress later on this year, so I'm very engaged with those communities. I'm very big about communities.
Mm-hmm.
For 8 years, I was the chapter president here in Central Florida for the ISC2 Central Florida chapter.
Nice.
And community is huge for networking, especially whether you're looking for work, whether you're looking to connect with people, build up community. Those chapters are the best thing. And I'm still engaged with the chapter, even though I stepped down as president. But always, and it's kind of how I got to meet Alyson as well, which is great. And so that's what's. There's the coin. There you go. Challenge coin.
I just need to go.
But so that's and then I do Jerry's show on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a lot. Jerry and I are good friends. And and then besides and teaching, so there's a lot that goes on. Keep myself out of trouble, keep myself busy. But as much as I appreciate Alyson, I don't know if you know the name of the most secure woman in the world, Omar.
Boy,
her name would be. No, that's okay. That's fine. No, it's all right. It's all good. Her name's Emma. MFA.
I can't wait for this book. I cannot wait. I absolutely. James, if you don't think that I'm going to absolutely turn that around tomorrow on a Teams chat at least at
Of
work,
course, you have to.
I'm going to absolutely pay that forward.
It's always great when it's, especially when you're presenting to women or in a room with women and men, it's like, okay, man, guys, we're not secure enough. Women, let me tell you who the most secure woman in the world is, Yeah.
I'm busting that out on board presentation prep. I'm
There you
going to
go.
do that to lighten
boards
the mood.
they'll be loving it. They'll lead it right up.
Absolutely. James, it's been an absolute pleasure. Alyson, thank you so much for the connection. This is, like you said, like James said, community is really, I think, at the heart of this. It's one of the most enriching pieces. You get to a certain place in the career and, like you said, James, at the top of the call, give back. You want to, and we can see that.
Pay it forward.
Right? Pay it forward. So thank you, James, for hopping on. When, next thing you have, percolating, reach out, you're a friend of the pod. We'll get you on. And in the meantime, from now till then, everyone, keep it cyber metal. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Awesome. Thanks.